We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say, you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another session of Bucknell Field Hockey Through the Decades. This is the decade of the 1990s. I'm Todd Newcomb. I want to welcome those that are joining us for the session. And I want to thank Geisinger as our sponsor for this. Geisinger does a great job helping our student athletes in our local communities, especially during these crazy times of this pandemic. All those in the front lines at Geisinger, we truly appreciate all that they do every day. I'm going to take a second to introduce our guest, and then I'll turn it over to Coach Cook and one of our current student athletes, Emily Doyle. And we got a great session in store for you. Our first guest is not actually on board yet. She will be joining us in progress. That's Jeanette Aurand. And for those of you at home, I'm going to introduce the guest by their maiden name so that you recognize them when you may have been at Bucknell. We can get their married name throughout the call if they choose to do that. So our first guest is Jeanette Aurand from the class of 1992. Jeanette was a team captain in 1990. She was an All-Patriot League first team selection in both 1990 and 1991. She was the Patriot League Player of the Year in 1991, and she won the Kristy Award at the Senior Awards Banquet at Bucknell. Our next guest from the class of 1993 is Katrina Mueller. She was All-Patriot League first team in 1990, 1991, and 1992. She was an All-Region second team selection in 1991. And Katrina won the Edward W. Pangburn Award at the Senior Awards dinner. Our next guest from the class of 1996 is Tracy Bass. Tracy was a four-year letter winner for the field hockey program, and she won the Bradley N. Tufts Award at the Senior Awards dinner. Danny Johnston from the class of 1997 is our next guest. She was a team captain in 1996. She was an All-Patriot League first team selection in 1995, an All-Patriot League second team selection in 1996. She was All-Region second team in both 1995 and 1996, and she won the Ronald J. Pete Pedrick Award at the Senior Awards Banquet. Our next guest from the class of 1998 is Sarah Catlin. She was a team captain in 1997. She was an All-Patriot League second team selection in both 1996 and 1997. And then, of course, our student athlete is Emily Doyle. Emily is a junior from Malvern, Pennsylvania, and she's a forward on the current team. Jeremy, a great group. I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's have some fun.
All right. So first question is a bit of a softball question. Just wanted to kind of know what you're up to now. And so I was hoping to add one more thing onto Sarah's bio, and then I'd like her to go first in answering this. But Sarah was a colleague of mine, head coach at LaSalle University in Pittsburgh for the field hockey team for 10 plus. I don't remember how many years that was, but for quite a long time after she graduated from Bucknell. So let's start with Sarah. What are you up to now?
What am I up to now? So I got out of college coaching after about a dozen years, 2 short stints as an assistant, and then the bulk of my career, as you said, at LaSalle. And then I had gone to boarding school. I loved boarding school and really wanted to get back to that environment. So rotated out, and my first job was actually at a day school in Ohio, but I finally worked my way back east, and I'm currently at Cushing Academy. I'm a director of recruitment for the admissions office, and I coach the field hockey and lacrosse teams.
That's awesome. All right, let's go on my top left, Tracy. And feel free to fill in children info too. Sarah, do you want to go back and do that?
Oh, sorry, yes. I've been married to 7 years to my wonderful wife, Jennifer Willis, and I have a 4-year-old Will and a 1-year-old Hudson. And we got Will his first lobster tonight, and he hard rejected it after the first bite. So Matt.
You know what? Will and I are kindred spirits. I'm not a big lobster person, even though I grew up on Cape Cod. So I'm Tracy Wilson now, Tracy Bass back then. I actually taught high school and was a high school field hockey coach, but then moved and couldn't find a teaching job. So I ended up as a field hockey product manager for Cranberry and Grays Field Hockey here in the US. For a long time, I was there for 8 years. Danny and I actually worked together there for a little while. And so I've worked in product all my life. I've worked for a lot of big sporting goods companies. I worked for New Balance and Igloo. I'm actually currently working in the plumbing industry, something I never thought I'd say, managing product team making kitchen and bath faucets and fixtures. So like all your shower heads and all your bathroom faucets. So I manage the product team that does all of that. I also have 2 boys. Mine are a little older than Sarah's. They're 7 and 9, Tommy and Luke. And they're a lot of fun. A lot of work, but a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Danny, how about you?
Currently, I'm in Maryland, but on vacation at Cape Cod, thanks to Trace. I have 3 girls. They are 6, 9, and 11. All girls, not a boy mom. Always thought I'd probably be a boy mom, but I'm a girl mom, and it's been great. Physical therapist. Most of my career was outpatient, but now I'm school-based, which has been extremely rewarding and flexible through everything with the current state of affairs. So grateful for that.
That's awesome. Katrina?
So after leaving Bucknell, of course, I spent 2 years post-grad there as well as the assistant field hockey and lacrosse coach, which is why if I didn't play with them, I coached all these young ladies. But my first job that I got hired as a social studies teacher, I got it because I accepted the field hockey position. So that was awesome. I spent 4 years there at that school and finally got into a district that was a lot closer to home. My husband owns and operates a spring water business, a bottling plant. So that wasn't moving. So I am up in northeastern PA, the way northeast corner. And I work at Wallenpaupack Area School District. I'm still a history and psychology teacher primarily now. Never got back into field hockey. I said there's 2 big problems with that coaching move, and one's named Max and the other one's named Pete. So I have a 20-year-old that is a catcher at Felician University, which is a nice D2 down in Jersey. And he actually, odd fact, his freshman year, he redshirted due to a knee injury. This year, he didn't get a season. So he will be in his 3rd year of college and will be a freshman on the baseball team. So that's like a weird thing. My other son actually goes to the prep school up here, and we are actively trying to find him a home for lacrosse and obviously an education, and he has a couple of really great prospects. So thankfully we are back and playing in tournaments. I was just out in Erie, PA this past weekend watching him doing some really great things. So that's the way that I have continued to compete and enjoy, sports.
That's awesome.
I still have my husband, and we've been married 24 years.
Right. That's good for you. So let's turn this back to Bucknell a little bit. I am interested in how you ended up here, from like how the school was introduced to you or how the recruiting process went, what your communication was with the coaches at the time, how you met the team, and in general, why you're a Bucknellian. So can we start with Sarah? She has a funny look.
It's funny. So I went to boarding school. I went to Loomis Chafee, and at the time, my coaches they knew Heather, and so I had sort of sat down. And this is 1993 or 94, and I'm like, oh hey, I'd like to play college field hockey, right? Well, next year it's a little different, and I sort of said, I really want to play. And I want to play at the Division I level, and I know that I'm probably going to have trouble getting onto some rosters. Where do you think I could play? And they knew that Heather had taken over at Bucknell. They knew that she was trying to rebuild the program. And, they, sight unseen, they called Heather and said, look, if you can get her fit, she can probably help you. So took her a while, but she finally got me fit, and I was kind of helpful.
That's awesome. So what, did you come up and visit? Do you remember your recruiting trip?
Yep, I didn't have a recruiting trip. I had a classic prep school. You got like a weekend to go visit school. So I drove around with one of my buddies. A girl ahead of me graduated and went to Bucknell for soccer. She ended up not staying, but she was here. And so I sort of did a drive through, and, I grew up in Vermont. So middle of nowhere farm country was like coming home again. And so I came to campus. It's a stunner. It's beautiful. I just felt like this is easy someplace that I could be home for 4 years. No problem at all. And so just kind of fell in love with the campus, and Heather said she'd keep me. So I said, I'm coming.
That's awesome. Now you're on the all-decade team. That's pretty cool. Tracy, how about you?
So I have a relatively interesting story because I got recruited by Jen Averill, who was the coach before Heather. And I was all excited, so thrilled. Bucknell really fit my personality. I think much like Sarah, like I grew up, I'm from Illinois originally, but we moved to Cape Cod when I was a kid. And I liked sort of like the smaller, like more compact campus feel. I really loved, it was beautiful. We came to visit like Easter weekend. It was gorgeous. I was like, oh my God, this is home. It just felt right when I got there. So I was all excited. I'm going to go play for Jen Averill. And then like about a week before I graduated from high school, Jen Averill called me and she's like, so Tracy, I have some good news, bad news. So the good news is I got and accepted the job at Wake Forest. The bad news, I'm not going to be at Bucknell next year, but I'm going to tell the coach you're coming. And I'm like, wait, what? I didn't apply to Wake Forest. What's going on? So I was a little bit nervous, needless to say, my freshman year rolling into a person I had never met before. I had no, like Heather had reached out over the summer, but like didn't really know what I was getting into. This isn't a woman I had like had a lot of contact with. And so it all worked out great. Heather and I, you know, we're Facebook friends. We get along great. We had a great 4 years together. She was awesome. And then Katrina, I played with my freshman year, and then I was lucky to have her as my assistant for 2 years after that. And so it all worked out great. But I have to admit, there's a little bit of like anxiety coming into my freshman year when I was like, who's this person? And like, how am I coming to play for her when I'm going to play again? But it was all good. I loved it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How about you, Danny?
Well, I am definitely anticlimactic. I was not recruited. I was a walk-on at Bucknell. I definitely a homebody. I'm a Pennsylvania girl, and I was looking at schools close to where I grew up, hoping that, you know, to play D1 field hockey, and my parents could come and see the games. Was more looking at Patriot League schools, Lehigh, Lafayette. I went to Bucknell with actually 3 other guys from my graduating class. So they're like, why don't you look at Bucknell if you're looking at those other Patriot League schools? And so I did a site visit, met Heather, loved the school. I love the fact that we are D1, but also the emphasis on academics. I knew I wanted to be a biology major. And wherever that led, I knew I wanted some sort of secondary degree, but I wasn't sure where yet or what. So it was just a great fit. I felt like it was small enough, close enough for this homebody, pretty much farm girl, and just never looked back from that point.
That's awesome to hear. That's awesome. How about you, Katrina?
So I kind of have Tracy's story beat a little bit. I actually was recruited, well, first of all, my brother went to Bucknell. We overlapped there for 2 years, so it became a little bit of a family place, so I knew what a great place it was. I didn't think he'd want me there, so I didn't originally look at Bucknell, and then he said, why aren't you? And I met the head coach, and at that time, it was Cheryl Stockton. And I met her. I thought, oh, this is going to be great. This will work. D1, great academics, same story. And I came in, and Jen Averill was the head coach. So I played for Jen for 3 years. My second semester junior year, I studied overseas. I didn't find out Jen was leaving until I got back from studying overseas. So, and Heather walked into the office, and I'm like, seriously? My senior year, this is what happens? So I never found out I made that regional All-American until Heather pulled the paper out of the desk drawer. Oh, wow. And never shared that information with me or whatever. So that was like it was tough. I had 3 different college coaches, and it was, Jen was awesome. She was a phenomenal building of the program and moved on to great things. And Heather did, an amazing job as well. And obviously I wouldn't have coached with her if I didn't think she knew what she was doing. So, and I was lucky enough to work a lot of summers for Heather as well.
That's awesome. That's really cool to hear. So, hey, I have one more question. Gonna get a little bit before we go on to that. It's interesting to me because like I hear the walk-ons, I hear like the less recruited. As you go back, like the 80s folks were relatively unrecruited, and the 70s folks basically just walked in and signed up on a piece of paper, right? But it's like the commonality, and I still feel this now, is that we are incredibly lucky to have the student athletes on the team that we do, whether they're recruited or how they ended up on the team. It's just like each of them brings so much of themselves to the program. And so we actually talk about that a fair amount. That makes sense, Em?
Definitely, yes.
But hey, I have one more question, and then we'll turn over to Emily for her first. What I want to hear is talk about walking on to the field as a freshman, and like where you were personality-wise, character-wise, and the growth that you experienced over the 4 years that you spent playing with the program. And then, I mean, obviously Katrina for an extra 2 as an assistant, because I know there's a lot of growth during that period too. But talk about it both academically, athletically. What do you remember about how you were and then who you became while you were a student athlete here at Bucknell? You want to reverse the order a little bit? We start with Katrina this time?
Sure. So I came from a really high-powered field hockey program, West Essex in New Jersey. We won state titles year after year. So I had a lot of friends who went on to play some pretty high-end field hockey, and I was, you know, the biggest thing, you have to come in shape. You got to come in shape. So I ran all summer long with a very good friend, Guy, who was a cross-country runner, who thought it was really fun to run like mile-long hills and things like that. So I came in phenomenal shape. I was so excited about coming on and trying to make a difference and all that kind of stuff. And when I got out to Bucknell, I had a knee injury my sophomore year in high school, so I wore a knee brace my whole college career. And they wouldn't let me practice the first practice. And I called home, I was crying. I'm like, oh my God, how am I gonna make this team? They need a check, they need to know that I'm healthy. And my mom talked me off the ledge, and I was allowed to go for a run with a couple of the other girls that also needed to be double checked by the school physician. But I really looked at that first experience. We struggled that year, but I had some phenomenal leaders on that team. Maria in goal, Catherine Barone, I mean, really strong, phenomenal women that were just amazing. And they respected me as a freshman, and I was able to get on that field. There was only one game that I didn't start in my collegiate career, and it was at Towson my senior year because I forgot my knee brace. And Heather wouldn't let me play. T-Bass, you remember?
Remember that.
But I had an unbelievable time. Great people. I learned, I grew a lot. I was really disappointed that I felt like because I was gone before my senior year, that I didn't have a chance to be recognized as captain my senior year, which was a tough blow. And I had come in with the new coach, and Heather handled that fantastically and really explained to me, bottom line is leaders are who shows up on that field. And she was right. And we had, you know, a better season. We should have had an even better season, but that's okay. So we really did grow, and I was so lucky to be able to, you know, I have such fond memories of all these faces on here. I mean, I could tell you unique pieces about each one of them. Phenomenal people. I'm just blessed to have been part of the program.
That's awesome. There may be some questions later where you get a chance to open up. I'm hoping. Danny, growth from start to finish.
Start to finish. Well, being a walk-on, it's a little bit different of an experience. But what I would say is, regardless of what division you're in, when you're playing at the collegiate level, you're playing alongside the cream of the crop. So you're looking at other individuals who were standouts at their own high schools, and it's just more intense. And I welcome that. And it's challenging, and everyone rises to the challenge, and the team, and it's phenomenal experience. So I think that for the most part, it was anxiety ridden until the team was made and you knew your spot, not only that you were on the team, but where you fit on that team and what your role is, and then to develop to be comfortable in that role and what your contribution is going to be. Versus, you know, you look around you and everyone's a standout. So where do I fit in? How do we put this team together to make the best team possible? But once, I mean, I can tell you the exact moment, you know, when I knew I was part of that team and how good that felt and what my contribution is, you know, no matter how small or how big or how it may vary game to game, but once you know your role and where you belong, it's a whole new family, and it was an experience I will always cherish.
That's awesome. Sarah?
Yeah, I think a little bit to what Danny was saying, I distinctly remember still walking into that first meeting, you know, and Heather's meeting with the returners first, so it's us, you know, first years out in the hallway, and you sort of chatting and everybody's sort of filling things out, and you start to realize that like everybody in the room was their high school captain. Everybody in the room, was Ali. Everybody in the room was, and so I think that for me, I was like, oh, and I think for me, right, and I think, like one of the reasons I got into coaching, I think, and one of the reasons I play in the backfield, like I could always read the game really well, and I always understood the game really well, but I'd never been physically tested. I never had to, at the high school level when it was on grass, like I just kind of knew where they were going to be before they did. So I got there in plenty of time. And so I showed up to Bucknell and just got annihilated. I mean, I pulled my groin like the first day because I was so unfit. I had like taped it together and was like dragging myself on the field because I knew if I stepped off the field, right, if I said I was too injured to play, stepped off the field, I was going to get cut. And so I knew I had to stay on the field long enough to like show that maybe there was something there worth keeping. And the story that was relayed to me is Kat's mom was actually at the third day of tryouts, and I'm out there dragging my leg around, and Heather and Kat are going back and forth on like whether or not to keep me. And Kat's mom goes, "You gotta keep that kid. She's a bulldog." And like, I think that's why I made the team, right? Kat's mom was like,
Kat's mom.
See what happens, And and again, I benefit, right? Heather was rebuilding. She kept a big squad, and like she had room to let somebody that maybe had potential to sit on the squad. And I was really lucky. I mean, I look at Danny and T-Bass right now, and obviously Kevin Cat as an assistant, right? Like they created a culture at Bucknell that once you got that practice, Benny, you were on the team, and they treated you like gold. And so I, as soon as that happened, I came out every day like psyched to practice. And yeah, sure, I wanted to start and I wanted to play, but mostly I was just proud to get to wear the uniform and knew, right, like if he kept giving me opportunities, then something would, hopefully I would get a chance to prove myself, and that's what happened. I think that I'm a Division I athlete, one part luck, one part brains, and one part timing. I don't know, thanks to Kat's mom, I guess. So but I think I learned a lot from that. I think I learned a lot about quite honestly, even as a coach myself, about creating atmosphere where you give opportunity to be your best.
That's great to hear. I love how you mentioned culture with all that.
The one piece about Sarah was her tenacity. I mean, she wouldn't quit. She kept I don't know, you were crawling on the field by the end of preseason, but no, she wouldn't quit. And and that is absolutely her personality. It's just such an absolute positive part of her personality.
Really quick side note, my wife and I used to go watch her play tackle football in Philly. She was on the Philadelphia like the city tackle football team. So we got to go watch her play. It was awesome. It's really cool. That was while you were coaching at LaSalle, I think. Tracy.
Well, lifelong dream to like play a contact sport, right? Like, women couldn't do anything that hit. And I was like, you're going to give me a chance to hit something? All right, let's do this. So I had one glory year as a football player.
That was fun to watch. Tracy?
So I feel like I sort of had a beginning maybe a little bit more like Danny did. Like, even though I had been recruited by Jen when I got there, Heather didn't know who I was. And so I felt very much like a walk-on. And then I got very sick during preseason. I had like 103-degree fever. I was like brutally ill, and it was me and like 13 guys trying out for fall sports on my freshman hall. And Heather would kick me out of practice every day. She'd be like, "You have to go home. You're sick. I promise you will get your chance to make this team." And I'm like, "No, but I have to be here." And she's like, "No, you need to go home." And the guys would bring me home like bagels from the cafeteria when they would come home from their practice. So when it was all said and done, I made the team, which was great. Thank God Sarah joined us, because I feel like I really struggled a lot over my 4 years at Bucknell with field hockey. I, again, much like everybody else on the Zoom, came from a very high profile program here in Massachusetts. We won lots of state titles. We were always in the running. And, I came from a really high-powered summer league, like elite team. Everyone on my team played Division I college field hockey. And so when I got to Bucknell my freshman year, I didn't start, I played a lot, and I was a midfielder, and I played a lot midfield and forward as a freshman. And then during preseason of my sophomore year, Heather and Kat asked me, like, "Look, we need you to play sweeper." And I was like, "I'm sorry, you need me to do what?" Like, sweeper? Like, I don't know anything about that. Really? You sure about this? So I actually started and played sweeper for my sophomore and junior years, a position I had never played ever in my life, not once. And thank God Catlin arrived, because she rescued me from that. And I got to go back to being a forward and a midfielder my senior year. And again, much like Katrina said, like, I didn't get to be a captain my senior year, and I had, not that I had assumed it was given, but like, I felt very respected by the rest of my teammates. And Heather said the same thing. Look, Tracy, leaders are the people who show up every day and who lead this team by example, and you do that. And so it was a weird feeling to not be a captain my senior year, given that I had been a captain of every sport I had ever played, always. But Heather, at the same time, made me feel very much like I was still an important part of the organization. And it was challenging because, again, we all come from these programs where we're all like important, right? And we're all stars, and we're all like the leaders of the team. And so to have this different experience as a college player, I think was great, because it allowed me to go into the business world and really have an appreciation for, look, you don't have to be the vice president or the CEO of the company to be able to have an impact on what you do every day and how you lead inside your organization. And for what it's worth, because my graduating class was Heather's first full class, she gave out an award named after each of the seniors when we graduated, and she gave it every year. And my current boss, so at the bottom of my resume, right, it says the inaugural Tracy Bass Award winner for intensity. He's like, could you just make that your resume? Like, you don't need to put anything else. That pretty much sums it all up. But that was really fulfilling, right, for a lot of us to leave with this knowledge that, like, Heather had this legacy around us. And she really she made all of us feel like we were very important. And I've taken that with me just from a business perspective, because again, like Katrina, I started out as a social studies teacher. And when I shifted to business, like, what did I know about business? Nothing. But Heather's words resonated with me that, like, you can do whatever you want and you can lead however you need to lead. You don't have to be whatever, as long as you're there and you're working your hardest and you're doing your best and you're having a positive attitude every day when you walk in that building, you're doing the right thing. And so I really took a lot of that with me. I felt like I grew a lot at Bucknell, because it was the first place I really felt challenged, right? Like, this was like, wait, what? I don't get to be a captain? I get, what? And so there was a lot of like stuff where you feel like, oh, it's just going to be like this easy walk. And college was not that, it was not it. And so that was really great. And I really appreciate that now, all these years later, having that sense of like really developed a thick skin and an ability to say, you know what, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you go out and you do your best every day and you work hard and you're giving it and you're leading by example, that's all that matters.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
we talk a lot about that, sort of like that bump, right? So you have straight A students that are captain of the field hockey team, some combination of, valedictorian or homecoming queen or both, and they're getting all the minutes, and then they show up here, get a C on a chem exam, and are at the end of the bench. And so you have to kind of reevaluate kind of the metrics that you use to sort of, create your self-worth. And so, we talk a lot about that, and that's a tough little bump, but once people get over it, you really start to open up and be a little bit more vulnerable to constructive criticism and, feedback from your friends and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, hey, Jeanette, welcome.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, tell us what you're up to. Like, where are you now, and what have you been doing with your life lately?
I'm sitting in my pediatric clinic. I've been here in Alaska as a general pediatrician at the same clinic for the last 15 years. I've got 2 teen boys, and that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I play ice hockey now instead of field hockey.
Whoa, that's awesome. You must love it up there if you've been there for that long.
Yeah, I do love it. I think as I get closer to retirement, I'd like to spend my winter somewhere else, but the summers are fantastic.
That's awesome. Well, I was just about ready to turn it over to Emily for her first question here. This is one of our student athletes, Jeanette. This is Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, everyone. So I basically just learned a lot from all your growth stories, but I was hoping that you could give one piece of advice to me or any player that is in the program today about the experience of field hockey that you had at Bucknell. Would Danny like to start?
Sure. I think Jeremy definitely nailed it. It's just the being able to self-evaluate, and you get a C on that first chem test, and you're not used to that kind of challenge / failure, and how do you reboot and measure your success and kind of grade it in the same breath. Not be so caught up in your own head, you know, like it's a different level, it's a different intensity, and just give yourself time to acclimate and not be so hard on yourself. There's just a lot of type A's, you know, and that's a great thing. There's a lot of type A's, and type A's make the world go round. But when you're immersed in that, and then you're challenged by that in its own right, but then just self-reflecting and being able to see resilience more or less, and being able to gauge true success and growth. And it's a different metric more or less. And to be able to go by that starting point and then see where you grow to. And it's a multitask, you know, you want to practice mindfulness. Are you mature enough to do that? But you don't want to take any day for granted. You want to love every minute with your team. You want to do the best you can academically, and at the same point not get too stressed out or too hard on yourself. But it's a short 4 years, and Bucknell offers a lot, and take advantage of that. You know, just because you see yourself in one trajectory, don't put yourself in a box. You know, there's a lot of different avenues that you can tap into. There's a lot of self-growth that can happen, and it's a short 4 years. So I would say, you know, if you're on the team and you're making bonds and friendships, and just kind of get that base to then grow from there.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Trying to get through just like that. Would Sarah like to go?
You.
Oh, you're up. Yeah.
I think after, 6 months of nothing but Zoom, I would remember. I think for me, what I realized, on some level when I was playing, and that's why I stayed in coaching, but more so on looking back, is just I really don't know if there's a more powerful system than a team. And I think wherever you go professionally, understanding how a team works is invaluable. Really, Danny and Seabass and Kat are kind. I had a big ego and was pretty self-centered, through college, and they love me anyway. And I think I learned from them, and as an upperclassman, I did a lot better in trying to make my teammates better, right? So when I filled their role, and had those underclassmen come in and recognize some of the challenges, and I really think if when a team operates at its maximum capacity, and that's when everybody's sort of doing the best that they can for the group, I don't think there's a better system out there. And so to try to figure out how you can make your teammates better while still being your best, I think was a gift that college athletics gave me.
Awesome. Thanks. Katrina, would you like to go?
Yeah, I as I'm on the dealing with my boys and looking at colleges, and my one is experiencing the collegiate life, but again, the team, where do you fit in? How do you do it with all his challenges that he's had? I can't tell you how much I revisit the memories of the sports now. I mean, I did over the years, but life's busy. You have young kids, you're making your career, you're trying to find your way. But now, as my kids are the age that they're at, I think about Bucknell and my team experiences all the time. And so thankful of, some of these women are the most intense women I've ever met. And as I said, I played or coached all of them. So Sarah was intense and tough, right? Danny was, you want to talk about intense? She says, give yourself a break. She wouldn't ever give herself a break. She was a perfectionist, as was Tracy, which was part of her frustration as she was trying to get the positions that she wanted on the team. And then Jeanette, oh my God, I don't even know how she made it through Bucknell. She was ROTC. I think she had straight A's. I don't even know. Of course, she's a doctor. Well, we all thought you did.
I'm glad you think so.
but amazing, just amazing opportunities that we had. But you need to enjoy it while you're going through it and not get so hung up on all the little pieces, because you're only getting to go through once. That's all you get.
I know, definitely, especially with everything going on right now. I think that's what we're trying to get everyone's mindset, is to still have fun with everything going on.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy, would you like to go?
Sure. So I think, sort of riffing on what Sarah and Danny and Katrina have said, it's like you've got to enjoy it. And I know it's so cliche to enjoy every minute, and because you can't, right? It's just impossible to enjoy every minute. There are going to be moments where you're like, this is the worst thing I've ever done in my life. Why did I do this? But in the broader perspective, right, of like realizing that the overall experience is amazing. Look, we said it at the outset, Danny and I are on vacation together here on Cape Cod 20 plus years later, right? And these are the friendships that you're going to have for a lifetime. And I'm going to make myself cry if I'm not careful here, but these are like, these girls, like these women are amazing. Like, I can't tell you how grateful I am for having every single one of them in my life. And like, Kat was like, I can't tell you, when I was a freshman and she was a senior, I was like, oh my God, she's so good. Like, I would never be that. And you know, you come, like we said at the beginning, right? We all come from these programs where we're all like the top of the top, and then to walk in and see these people, like Kat with like you, Elmira, Trisha, like I just remember being so intimidated. Like, these people are amazing, but they were enjoying themselves all the time, and they had fun. And I realized it reminded me that this was supposed to be fun, right? That college was supposed to be fun, field hockey was supposed to be fun. I was super homesick my freshman year and like cried all the time. But I look back now and realize how grateful I am for those experiences and for those people who showed me the way. And then I turn and look at Sarah, and Sarah and I were both from New England. And so we sort of had a bond from the beginning, right? Because there weren't many of us from New England on the team. And, you know, part of your job is also to help bring up the kids below you, right? Look at those girls, those freshmen that are incoming, and understand that they're going through all the same things that you went through when you were a freshman. And I look at this in business all the time. Like, I had a woman that unfortunately got laid off, but was working for me right before the whole pandemic started. And she was like, she'd come to my desk every day and she'd be like, oh, Tracy, I just hope that one day when I'm older, I can be like you. And I'd be like, Liz, what are you talking about? But at the end of the day, I'd go home and I'd be like, you know what? She's looking for guidance, right? And we do it when we're athletes. And again, what goes back to, you're a leader if you lead. It doesn't matter what your title is, but taking those experiences away from you and understanding that you have an opportunity to influence people far beyond your athletic career, far beyond your college career, knowing that these leadership skills that you're going to take away from this opportunity to play at a Division I college level. And again, what Sarah said, being part of a team, understanding how to lift everybody around you up is huge. And again, like, I thought I was going to teach high school forever. And the fact that I'm in business now is, I think, gives me a unique perspective, because I never thought I'd be here, but understanding that I have this opportunity now to influence these younger women in particular, I'd like to help as many as I can. You know, it's great. Like, you just have to understand that, like, you have to enjoy where you are, and not every minute is going to be enjoyable, but hopefully the overall experience is something that you love and look back on with fondness and kindness, and that you have lifelong friendships. But along the way, you have to remember that part of your responsibility of being here and being a part of a team is to lift everybody else up and to try to teach them how to be better. Because if you don't, the team's not going to succeed. And to Sarah's point, like, when a team's functioning right, it's the most powerful unit in the world, and you have to do that, right? The team has to make that happen. Nobody can do it by themselves. And if everybody's not helping everybody else, it's never going to work. And so that would be sort of what I would say would be the biggest things I would take away from my college experience.
Awesome. Thank you. Jeanette, would you like to go?
Sure. I didn't get the chance. Well, I got to play with Katrina, but everybody else on the screen probably came in right as I had left. I just turned 50, so I feel like an old lady. Bucknell seems a long time ago. But I think every time I look back to that period in my life, you know, you can always go to school, you can always switch jobs, but there are very few chances in your life to be a Division I college athlete. And for most of us, it ends in the way that you're used to it upon graduation. There are club teams, there's the lucky few who move forward, but to really just be in the moment and appreciate everything that you have, because it is one of the things that as you move on in life, it's very, very hard to replicate. And the ego gets in the way. The ego really does. And if you can just put yourself aside and remember to enjoy everybody around you, because it's this unique thing that really doesn't come along many times in life.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. That was awesome advice. I'm so excited to go share with my team and everything. But Jared has the next question for you. So
I'm gonna talk about Emily for 2 seconds, but it's funny like that you guys mentioned the perspective of enjoying yourself. I think that's one of Emily's leadership roles in the team with our group currently, is that that's kind of her role, is helping everybody keep perspective on, hey, it's a game and it's a lot of fun and we're going to go as hard as we possibly can, while we're on the field together, but keeping a light heart and keeping perspective when we're off it. And I think that's a neat. I'm glad that you guys brought that up, and I'm really glad that she got to hear that too, just because I think that she's got that role with our group. Cool. All right. So let's go crazy here. I want to hear the most memorable moment. No holds barred. Most memorable moment. It doesn't have to be on field. It can be a win or a loss. It could be a moment in the something that you won't forget that had a big impact on you. Bucknell Field Hockey. Let's go. Do we have any takers? Who would like to go first? Because that's a tough one. Sarah's thinking about whether the idea that she has is appropriate.
I was going to say Catlin, go.
Let's go for it. Sarah, you got to do it. Jump in. Most interesting, fun memory.
So I think, Danny, I remember you were there, so it must have been my junior year. And we we had a good squad that year, and there was a lot of talent, and I think we had a pretty good chemistry going, and it was a fun group because there was enough uniqueness in the group, but there was also sort of that that willingness to sort of like we before me kind of an attitude. And we had a game, and I can't remember who it was against, but it was somebody we kind of thought we were going to take, and it was a home game, and a storm system was coming in. And this is back when we had a grass field, right? And so the weather actually mattered. And so I remember us being like, it cannot rain. Like we got a little thing going this year. Like we're gonna, like we get this win. Like we're kind of headed in a good direction. And sure enough, this huge storm blows in, and we're like, Heather, like push the game back. Like we'll get fans. We'll squeegee it. Like what do we need to do? It's just like, guys, man, like the game's canceled. Like it's not happening. And we just had so much energy, and we had to let it go. So we all went out to the field, and we did mudslides through all the puddles for like 45 minutes, and just like head first, like just sliding everywhere. And like Heather would have.
It was the practice field.
We were just talking about this today, literally.
And there was some inappropriate stuff and it was homecoming, so it was a huge disappointment. Yeah. But yes, it was my senior year, your junior year. We just had this conversation, but yes, we did. We totally had a blast. I mean, that's what memories are made of, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's it, right? Like I think like when the stuff that's a difference maker, like everybody goes and plays games and everybody wins and loses, but I think like those times when things don't go as you plan, and yet what you want to do is still go spend time with your team out on the field, and you figure out a way to make it happen. Yeah, I mean that I love that. That's a memory that I'll always have in sort of like a great day at Bucknell.
Awesome
And
perspective.
No social media, so it was. Right. I remember H being like, "What did you guys do? I see body marks like all through the fields." I'm like, "It was a practice field. It was a practice field. It's fine. Like, we'll comb it in the morning."
Awesome. I mean, without having any games this fall to play, it's like, I mean, we have to keep perspective that's, that some of those moments are the more fun ones, I think, too.
It was totally a practice field, except for the last one, and that was absolutely 100% on the game field. And that's
Anybody else have an awesome memory they want to share?
I have one.
Hit it.
So I just remember road tripping with Sue Wells, was a player who some of you may know, but she was one of my buddies on the team, and this was when Jennifer Averill was the coach. And that year, Old Dominion played in the national championship game up at Brown University, and we road tripped up there. And I don't even remember how the joke started, but it was Pennsylvania in the fall. And so Jennifer went to a farmer's market and bought like 20 gourds, and we littered them across the front of the windshield. And we drive all the way to Brown University with these gourds in the window and watched the best field hockey game that I'd ever seen. It was a really close game, ended in a shootout, but it was just being able to have that kind of fun with people on the team and revolving around the sport that I loved.
That's wonderful.
So Nettie, it's funny that you start talking about the road trips, because I think that's what comes to my mind the most. Remember Carrie Schultz and the most disgusting thing you could find in a convenience store that we should eat? She came in with red hot Cheetos, a bag of them, and said everybody has to try one. Sour Patch Kids when they first came out, and they were so sour. And Carrie's like, "Oh no, we're eating them." And that my freshman year we went out to Kent State, if you remember. That was our first road trip, and it was a long road trip, and we were in vans. We didn't get the bus, so we were pretty tight on those vans. And I just have so many memories of. The coaches were so good, whether it was Jen, whether it was Heather, of rotating us around with different roommates all the time. And I'm sure that still happens. But, you got what you got. You had to figure it out. But we used to have eating contests with the chocolate cake at the cafeteria. Do you remember that? We'd be running in late from practice because, of course, none of our coaches ever, cared about what time it was. So you'd be running across campus because they made a no driving rule out to the fields, and running across, barely showered, eating, so hungry, and then we'd be like, who can eat more cake? Can you eat more cake? I mean, and yet we were incredibly fit at that time too, so I can't do that anymore.
You can get away with eating the cake, yeah.
But the road trips, those memories, the connections, I mean, we had some of the craziest characters in the years of all the teams. I mean, and they made the experience just phenomenal.
That's really neat. Does anybody have another memory to share? Let's turn it over to Emily for her second question.
So as I was reading this over, I was kind of thinking about so my question would be, who is the teammate you admired the most throughout your career at Bucknell and why? And I thought that was really interesting because then I started thinking about everyone who I've been playing with here at Bucknell, and I still don't know. I feel like everyone has been an awesome aspect to my growth in field hockey, my growth in life. So if you thought of one person, who would it be? Would Tracy like to start?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. And ironically, many of the people I would choose are probably on this call, right? I mean, I look at Sarah, and to her point, she came in and got hurt during preseason, and Sarah, what year did you graduate? 98? So are you 2 years behind me? Yeah, you're on mute again, but that's okay. It's all fine. And I look at Sarah, who was somebody that, even though she was younger than me, right? And you always think about somebody you have to look up to as older, right? And I so appreciated her and her work ethic and her desire to compete and be out there every day. And that's very much how I'm wired. I don't give up. I have an intensity award named after me. There's a little bit of intensity here. I've been told that I give people dirty looks when I'm very focused and I don't realize people are talking to me. And then I look at Danny, who is one of my best friends in the world and worked so hard every day and came in as a walk-on and became an all-star on this team, a total standout, and just through sheer hard work, dedication, and just through love of the game, right? And then I look at people like Kat and her class and the Trisha Ways and Elmira's of the world, and those girls, because they were older than me, seemed so mature and so talented and so good, and they worked hard, but they enjoyed themselves, and it was they just loved being out there every day. And so for me, Emily, I feel much like you. I would have a very hard time picking just one person, and then I just appreciate the balance that all of us had, but in particular, I think about somebody like a Carolyn Zesk, who was an academic all-star, right? She blew it out of the water academically, but then here she was running around like a crazy person on the field hockey field all the time. And I just always really admired her ability to balance both. And I think just all of the women I played with just were really inspiring to me in so many different ways that to pick one seems really hard because I admire so many different aspects of everybody. And again, not every person embodies everything that you would want to be for yourself, right? And so I look at all of these women and just think in Kat's sheer strength. I always thought I was strong, and then I was oh, I have nothing on her, you know, and like just everybody had so many different strengths and across all their personality traits and across all of their field hockey skills and leadership skills and all that stuff. So I would have a hard time picking as well. Emily, I think I understand your dilemma.
Yeah, I feel like just grab everyone on the team and make them one person, and that would be it.
Right, yeah, take the best of everyone, and then it's like they should just run the country.
Yeah, exactly. Katrina?
So I guess the name that stands out, which I had mentioned her, was Catherine Barone. She talked about strong. I mean, Tracy, I had nothing on her. She was a couple inches taller and was just a lean fighting machine. I'm sure Jeanette remembers her very well. She was intense as all get out. I mean, you didn't mess with Catherine. So she was a senior when I was a freshman. And I came in and I ended up I was center back. So I had to take a lot of the, our free hits and stuff. And as the game, of course, has changed so drastically now, free hit was a really big deal. And you had to have a bomb. And I could control my hit pretty well. But she started with, you gotta go ahead and hit it between my legs. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, it'll go right through you, just right between the legs. And she point right between her legs. Well, we're playing on grass fields. You're lucky, you get tired, you start lofting the ball.
Oh my God.
I hit Catherine this time, and I thought she was going to kill me.
Yeah.
And she basically grunted at me and would be like, get it right next time. Okay. But she was just one of the strongest. I mean, Jeanette, I'm sure, you remember Catherine pretty well. I don't know how well. I got along with her well, and I really respected her, but I just couldn't believe her ability to work with a freshman and say, this is how it's done. So she was a really great impact on my field hockey experience.
Awesome. Yeah, I was thinking playing on grass and doing that'd be crazy. I'd be so scared for myself. Danny?
I think like leading into it, one of the biggest decisions as far as determining where to go for college, Bucknell has a strong emphasis on academics. So although I wanted to play D1, it was always, when I spoke with H, it was, academics first. So that in my mind kind of took a little bit of pressure off, that it would never necessarily be too much of a choice necessarily. But that being said, I would have to, and I'm going to drop her name again, Carolyn Zesk. I love that girl. She pulled me through physics 1 and 2, and just awesome. An awesome tribute to how to be a student athlete and handle it with grace and laughter and tears, more or less. But she's was definitely a strong role model and set the tone. She year ahead, so she was T-Bass's year now, and she knew from the get-go, she was going to be a physician. So she was straight A's on that bio major. So she had that intensity as well. But
thanks for joining us.
Sorry, it's too short, but it's great to see your faces.
Thanks for joining.
Well, thanks, Danny. Sarah, would you like to go?
Yeah, I have to do my favorite Carolyn Zesk trivia is, the only A- she ever got in her 4 years was freshman year in study skills. So that I still love that. You guys were all talking, I was thinking about it, and I think a lot with what T-Bass says. I mean, there's pieces of all my teammates that I really admired and still treasure about them. Barb Jordan was the assistant coach my senior year, I think senior year only. She came in as the lacrosse coach here, and she made a real impact on me because she was one of the most decorated lacrosse players in sort of like the history of lacrosse, right? She went and played at Penn State and just was phenomenal. And I can't remember where she was before she came to Bucknell, but it sort of decided to get into coaching. And was this brilliant coaching mind. And she's probably the most soft-spoken person and understated personality I've ever come across. And that was sort of my first introduction to the concept that you could be quiet and modest and just a complete badass on the field. You know, I think for me, it was always like, you know, you just have to always have it big. It's always got to be big. And Barbie wasn't big. She wasn't big in stature. She wasn't big in volume. She never said one word about herself. She didn't have to, because everybody would tell the stories beforehand. And I think her modesty and yet confidence just really struck me, and I really admired her for that. Hi, guys.
I have one of my kids and one of Danny's kids behind me right now.
Daddy!
Hey, everybody!
I just kicked them out of my room and they sent them to you, Trace.
Just so everybody's aware, I'm hiding in my office right now. Like I had to come to work to avoid that. So.
And my little one.
We have a 6 and an 8 at home. Is that?
Oh, so you're in the same wheelhouse as us right now.
Yeah, trying to make some tough decisions about this fall is really the hard part. Was that everybody for that question, Em?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks, guys.
I think the question that I really want to hear what you guys think of what we're doing now. Like, how much do you know about what we're doing now? Have you been able to watch games on the Patriot League type TV that they're running, or like you get the update emails that we send? What's your impression of what we're doing now? And if you have any suggestions for what we can keep doing or do better, we'd love to hear it. Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I think for you know, for me, I was fortunate enough to know Jared before he took over at Bucknell, and always just, you know, always Jared had just a tremendous amount of respect for you as a coach. You know, I think I met Jared coaching camps when we were both younger, right? And like, you know, you go work field hockey camp and there's 400 girls there, and then there's 35 female coaches, and then there's like 3 or 4 guys, and the girls are just always like, right? And plenty of my male colleague friends enjoyed that attention. And one of the things I just always really respected at Jared, and this is when he was a young guy, and you know, there's no reason to not enjoy it a little bit. He just always had a very professional sense about him, and I just admired that. And so when he took over at Bucknell, I remember him actually talking about, like, one of the things I really want to bring to the program is just a little bit of a sense of, like, you know, professionalism when you're thinking about field hockey, and you know, what does that mean, and not take the fun out of it, because Jared's a lot of fun, and his wife is even more fun, so he doesn't have a choice. You know, and I think it was always going to be fun, and you know, he's passionate about his kids. That comes through in the newsletters. It comes through when you hear him talk about, you know, Emily. But you know, Jared just has a wonderful intellect about the game, and to see, you know, the growth in sort of a systems approach to the game and what he's trying to get done, and knowing his opponents and who he's got to play. You know, I've appreciated the work and dedication he's had in that. And he never let go the pride we've always had in being an excellent academic program. I've seen so many coaches take over at smart schools and push the academics aside to focus on winning. And, you know, I've always felt that Jared has displayed a tremendous amount of pride in the women that he's brought to Bucknell and who they've become, what they do after college. And he's never seen that as a hindrance into building the best hockey he could.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Anybody else?
So I'll go. I think I've fallen off your mailing list somehow. I used to get emails from you all the time, and I don't anymore, which is heartbreaking, but that's okay. I'll forgive you. But I don't tell my bosses, occasionally stream the game.
Yes.
At work.
That's way more important.
A lot of times they are happening when I'm in the office, but that's okay. So I do use Patriot League Network and watch some of the games. I try to make it out occasionally when you guys are in New England. Like, obviously you're at Holy Cross, and so I try to get out there. I haven't made it the last couple of years. Small kids, hard to do sometimes. And if it's during the, you know, you guys are usually there on the weekends, but then my kids are now in sports, and so with sports schedules, sometimes it can be a little bit, because my kids, for what it's worth, play every sport there is. Like, they don't care, they'll play it. But I do try to follow as closely as I can. Like, I follow everything on Facebook and Instagram, and I've been really psyched about the program. I mean, I think Sarah makes a great point. You know, understanding the importance of the academics is, I think, probably for all of us, top priority, right? Like, you don't ever want to sacrifice that, the future of these athletes, because at the end of the day, none of us are playing field hockey professionally, right? It's just not a thing. And so we all need to leave Bucknell as really good citizens and really smart human beings on the right path for what we're going to do professionally. And so I've always appreciated that about Bucknell, and I very strongly get that sense that that's still the focus of the program. And so for me, I love that, and I think it's great, and congratulations that you've managed to keep it in place, because I think Sarah's right. You know, a lot of people, particularly now in an age of social media and where everything is so highly scrutinized, it's so easy to fall victim and prey to the, like, we've just got to win now. It doesn't matter. We're not, you know, forget the long term. We got to do it today, because everybody's about today right now, right? It's always about what can you do for me today, rather than what's the long term prognosis for these players. Like, what's Emily going to do when she graduates from Bucknell? And like, what is her experience as a field hockey player at Bucknell going to create for her in her career? And hopefully you'll take away all of these lovely things we've talked about today, right? About, you know, building up and being part of a team and raising up the people around you when you leave there. And so for me, really getting that sense that that continues to be a big part of the organization, I think is huge. You know, we were all very fortunate to go to college in the era of no social media. I will say that I'm very happy that that was not the case back then. But you know, it's hard, and it's really hard, Jeremy, I think, particularly for you, right? Because everybody's all about instant gratification today, and to be able to look at the long-term goals of not just the organization and the team, but for your players as well, I think is really important. And so I feel very confident in what's happening with the organization these days. I'd just love to get back on your mailing list.
I'm on it. I'm on it.
my email is still my maiden name, so it should be fine.
All right, I'll do my best. Whatever one Todd used, I'll get back on the list. You might get that puts you back on the alumni relations radar too, though.
Yeah. Oh, right. That's fine. That's fine.
All right.
They haven't lost track of me.
Okay. That's messed up. All right. Who wants to go next? Katrina.
I'll go. Yeah, I'd like to go. You know, the game has changed so much since not only I played, but since I coached. And as much as I joked about, I was asked many times at my current high school to either help out, do the builder program, which I would have loved to have done 7th and 8th grade and really taught those basic skills and so on. But as the game started to change, it kind of became more difficult to get involved in it, because I felt like I wasn't an expert anymore. Could I become one? Of course I could. I also always felt that I was a really, really, really good player, and I was an okay coach. I felt like I didn't have all of the vision on every, you know, player I had of all their opportunities that they could be and have on the field. Like, so I would see a kid as a forward and it'd be, that's it, you know, and that's just not the way the game's played anymore. So when I look at the pieces that I do get from, you know, whether it's a newsletter or I can't say that I've had time because my kids are so involved with sports to watch the games, but, you know, I do see the scores. It looks like the program has become incredibly solid and strong. You know, we were up and down. We had different coaches back, you know, as I came through. Heather built a great tradition. You took over a phenomenal program and tradition, but the way that you take apart the game, you look at it, the strategy, you know, how you get your players to perform in that way and really take apart a team. I think it's just awesome. It's a whole new level that's so beyond, you know, where we were at back in, you know, 93 is when I graduated, 95 is when I left Bucknell. So it was a while ago.
I mean, you got to consider, you guys had your hands tied behind your back with the grass as well, to a certain extent. I mean, not being able to practice. It's like, you know, Bill Graham's influence on our program and donating that turf. Just that changed everything. You know, just an absolute game changer for all of us, you know, that came later. I mean, you guys, I think it's amazing how competitive you guys were, not being able to practice on the types of fields that you were competing on.
You mean playing in the field house wasn't a good representation?
It's
how
just
we were
extraordinary.
play on the turf field when we had to travel?
I mean, it's honestly extraordinary. And it's like, I don't know how much X's and O's or anything like that you could have put onto a grass practice to turn it into Penn State's, you know, Astro. You know, like that's a whole nother thing. But Danny, you want to jump in? Current thoughts?
I don't think I have any more words of wisdom than these ladies already added. I will definitely concur that the turf field was definitely a game changer for Bucknell and the program, especially when you're looking at competitive high schools have it now. So if you want to build any type of a program, you need, that's the start. You know, you need to offer turf for sure. But yeah, kudos to you. I think you've definitely taken this program in the right direction for sure. And like Kat said, we struggled, and it was frustrating through my 4 years because we had tremendous amount of talent that I felt never came to fruition, and it was felt amongst every woman on that team. You know, like why we couldn't have not only, you know, a better record than like a 500 season was considered a success, and we were so much more than that, you know. So kudos to you. You've definitely taken it beyond that for sure.
It's the struggle that makes it worthwhile, you know, isn't it? Hey Todd, do we have time for Emily's last question? Is that?
We're kind of up against it, so we can do it quick.
Let's do it quick. Emily.
Yeah, so basically coming to Bucknell, I always knew one of the main things I wanted to come here for was like network after and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Still don't know what I want to do, but with the team and the Bucknell alumni and everything, hoping they would guide me in the right path. So I was wondering what advice that you have about networking and finding the right job after Bucknell would be. Katrina?
Yeah, so honestly, field hockey got me my first job. I didn't get hired as a full-time teacher. I got the full-time field hockey coach. And my dad always said to me, you go to school with your hockey stick and the hockey stick stays there. And of course, it's an ongoing family joke that that's what got me my first job. The gifts that you are given playing this sport will network you and will teach you and provide for you, along with those phenomenal academics that Bucknell provides. You know, and it's just great. It's great. You'll have lots of opportunity because of what you've been doing.
Awesome. It's great to hear. I get nervous sometimes, so reassurance is key. Sarah?
I mean, I just really quick, I just would echo what Kat said, and it goes beyond field hockey. I think there is a respect for people that have done the Division I athletic thing, and it just sets you apart in an intensity, sure, and in a competitive level, sure, but in the ability to come here. That's Hudson.
Hey Hudson.
And just the ability to I think, like, you know, my wife, I think you know, if you follow what you love to do, you're going to have opportunity because you've proven you can do things that nobody else can do.
Awesome. Thank you. Danny?
Sorry, still struggling with the unmute.
The sun directly in your face.
I know. I've been like toggling the sun too. I'm so sorry. Yeah, just to echo everything that's been said, be present, you know, and the fact that you're on this team and you're building these relationships. And to be honest with you, like being in a position now to like employ someone, like if I were on the reverse aspect, you know, like looking at resumes and I would see someone's Bucknell side, you know, a D1 X major athlete, and you're on a team and you have this experience behind you, that says volumes. And it's that kind of, that thing's going to pop off your resume. I mean, you can look at 50 different resumes, but if you look at and see what someone did off the academic side, that's what's going to set you aside for sure.
Awesome. Thanks. Tracy?
So I would start by saying, Jeremy, I know I am not close to Pennsylvania, but if you have any girls who are, any women on your team who are coming to New England or looking to move to the Boston area, use your network, right? So Emily, for you and your teammates, you guys need to leverage coaches, right? Because they have access to all our email addresses and this broader network, right, of people who now have all jobs across all kinds of different careers. I mean, you look at Kat, she's teaching. Danny's a physical therapist. Sarah's doing admissions. I work in product management across all kinds of sporting goods companies, and I've made toys, and now I make bathroom, kitchen faucets and fixtures, right? Like, we have this broad set of experiences. And so reach out to this network. I think anyone who was a Bucknell field hockey player at some point in their life would be happy to answer questions or connect you with people. As far as like doing your networking, get on LinkedIn, get yourself a really nice looking profile set up on LinkedIn, even if it's just your graduation, the fact that you played field hockey, any jobs you've had, high school jobs, any internships, anything you've done working at, like I always had a work study job at school. Put that out there. Show people that you're willing to work hard and that you're not so, and that you're flexible, I guess is the word I'm looking for, right? That you're willing to take on any task. And I think people who, to Danny's point, look at Division I college athletes, they understand that you're able to multitask. I am the same way. I say the same thing that Danny just said. I would much rather hire a Division I college athlete than somebody that maybe had the exact like academic resume that I was looking at. So if I had a set of skills that I was looking for with somebody and I had two candidates and one was a Division I athlete and the other had the exact right academics, I'm going to lean toward that athlete because I know you can work in a team and I know you can work hard and I know you're going to be willing to do whatever it takes to make your job to be successful at it. And so really leverage those things. Again, use your coaches, right? Have them reach out to us. Find all of us on LinkedIn, link into all of us, find the people that are in the professions that you think you might want to be interested in. Look, I was a high school social studies teacher and now I run a product team for a $100 million a year company. I worked at New Balance, I worked at Igloo, and I didn't get there because I knew what the heck I was doing. I got there because I was willing to work hard. I was willing to learn, and I'm intense about doing what it took to get there, right? Like, I ended up as a field hockey product manager because they're like, oh, you played field hockey in college. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I know Pam Hickson. She was the national team coach, right? Like, so use that network, reach out to the people, because really a lot of jobs today are all about who you know. And so leverage those things wherever you can. And I think you guys can disagree with me, but I think any of us would be happy to help someone who played field hockey at Bucknell and really help you find what it is that you want to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. That was really cool. We'll get you back on that list, Tracy, and I'll say hey to Pam when I see her.
Yeah, please do.
So I want to echo Coach's sentiments and thank everybody. First of all, Emily, I want to thank you for taking the time out to be on the call. And, obviously we're all really sorry about the fall and that you're not going to have a season in the fall, but we're keeping our fingers crossed that, maybe this spring we're playing field hockey competitively and games in the spring. So good luck to you back at school. And ladies, thanks so much for joining us. And more importantly, thank you for everything you have done and continue to do for Bucknell field hockey. It's great that we're able to get together like this and see the past of Bucknell field hockey and really the people that made the program what it is today. And for those of you that are joined us at home to watch, thank you for doing so, and go Bison.